So this idea of prana is that it's an energy that's always available to us, and sometimes we ourselves kind of constrict our ability to take in prana. So I'm going to invite today that you just kind of be a witness, observe your breath, notice when your breath starts to potentially agitate the other layers of yourself, the body or the mind. The bridge, the breath is a beautiful bridge between the two layers of the body and the mind. So it can help kind of soothe and calm you, but not if you're forcing it. So if at any time you're forcing your breath or it feels uncomfortable, just kind of let go of the practice, maybe do something else like pressing your feet into the ground or feeling yourself grounded. As always, I want you to be comfortable and easy in your movements. So, if at any time that doesn't become the case, please again pause the practice. You can always revisit this recording. So, we're going to start with a body scan. So, you could rest down on the floor. You could stay seated, whatever you think you're going to be most comfortable as. And if you're resting down on the floor, I'll just show a couple options. You could have your legs long, but you might need a prop under your knees. So you could move a pillow underneath your knees, trying to get your spine feeling long here. Or you could plant your feet and stay in this effortless rest position. Or as I said, you could start seated. So let's invite a little bit of that situating first. I'm going to stay seated just so I can guide and speak a little clearer. But you start to find your comfortable position, whether it's in a seat or resting on the floor. And start to check in with the Pranamaya Kosha. We visited this last week. That's the physical layer of yourself. So you might notice what parts of you are touching the floor. Maybe starting at the lower half, your glutes, legs perhaps, maybe your feet. And just check in with these places. And if you need to move them at all, please move a little bit. And then check in with your long spine. Notice how your shoulders are positioned around the spine. Again, you could move them a little bit just to kind of help them settle. And then notice the weight of your head. Maybe you rock your head side to side, whether you're seated or resting on the floor. Checking in with your physical body today and allowing it to show up however it's showing up. So maybe there's some tenseness or tightness in specific areas, and you might identify those areas and then work to kind of smooth that out just in your awareness, kind of letting go of the attachment to your tension. And use the focus now of our breath. Pranamaya Kosha, this layer of ourselves, our energetic layer, this layer that can feel resilient and relaxed. But perhaps as you're arriving to practice, it's a little bit more tense or tight. And we're going to work to steady and even out our energy with our working on our breath for the first 10 minutes or so. And we want to cultivate these qualities of resiliency, flexibility, coordination in our breath. So I'm going to have you first take your awareness to your diaphragm muscle. And this muscle lives below your rib cage. And you might even take your hands and kind of palpate around the lower ribs. And notice when you breathe in, there's some expansion that happens around that area. And when you breathe out, there's the reverse that happens, a contraction. So the diaphragm is a muscle. That means that we have conscious control of this muscle. However, it goes unnoticed most of the time because we breathe unconsciously most of our day and we take 30,000 breaths a day. I mean, that's a big number. So the patterning in our breath is really strong. So we're going to bring conscious awareness to our breath. The diaphragm is a muscle and it opens up like an umbrella would open up when you inhale. And when you exhale, it slightly closes or hugs in towards your center. So if you need to keep your hands there to kind of sense and feel that, certainly do so. As you inhale, feel the diaphragm expand. It opens up in the front, in the back, and side to side. And then it contracts and it kind of hugs your center. So see if you can make this connection, this mind-body connection to this diaphragm muscle. And if you're starting to get tense already, take a break and just kind of move the shoulders and move through the hips. We don't want to add excess tension here. So if movement is needed to kind of free this muscle, take that. And then return your focus to the diaphragm, the respiratory diaphragm below the ribs. When you inhale, it opens up, it expands, and it presses the organs, the soft organs into the belly. That's why you hear it called a belly breath. We're really not bringing air into our belly. We're just using the diaphragm muscle to press the organs into the belly. So just make this a curious exploration for yourself. There's no right or wrong. You're not being judged on your breath or watched here. So see if you can feel this expansion. You can picture that umbrella shape, that 360-degree opening, and then a closing. And we want to work to move the breath down in the body. So if you feel like the ribs or the upper chest is moving a lot, see if you could kind of pacify that. Maybe putting a hand on the chest will help signify that this place is quiet and the movement happens down at the low belly. So we're taking time. The most important thing I'm inviting here is space for exploration. And this respiratory diaphragm continues to move down when you inhale, and then back up when you exhale. So, this pattern at the respiratory diaphragm is also mirrored at the pelvic floor diaphragm. So, just to give you a little sense of that, as you inhale, the diaphragm moves down and you feel a little opening in the pelvic floor. Just a gentle, kind of like if a balloon was sitting in your belly and it just blew up, there was an opening. And then the balloon deflates and everything comes up and in, respiratory diaphragm and pelvic floor diaphragm. And again, our breathing patterns are really ingrained in our body and our mind. So this exploration is just meant to give you time and space to sense this. So inhaling, feel the diaphragm open up, expand downward, along with the pelvic floor, just a gentle opening. And then everything pulls up and in, exhaling. So see if you can sense this. If the imagery helps of the umbrella or blowing up the balloon, take that imagery in your mind and use it here as we turn your senses inward. And at any point, again, if tension is showing up, and shoulders or hips, you can take a break. No need to force this. In fact, if we force anything, we're perhaps creating more discomfort, but we're working towards building a resilient and coordinated breath. So we have to practice breathing. It might sound silly, but practice breathing so that we can build a new pattern in our body. So take this breath a couple more times, feeling diaphragm expand downward, pelvic floor downward, and then everything up and in. Find something that's curious in your mind and focus there. Curious in your body or how your breath is moving you. Maybe you're curious about how this is shifting your state. Notice what's shifted for you during the first 10 minutes of breathing.